Howdy, folks, and welcome to Moose Podcast number 362, Camera Basics. How you folks doing? Must have been a great week. I had a lot of emails, some great emails. Everything from what has sparked this week's episode with Camera Basics to people going to the Reno Air Races to a ton of love coming after the Photoshop World classes this past week. Had a marvelous time. You guys make it such a marvelous event. So thank you ever so much. I appreciate all the questions and feedback. One thing that's coming from that, yes, I will be recording here shortly, within the next week, actually, a brand new class about finishing aviation photographs using some old techniques and incorporating a whole lot of new. So, thanks so much, you guys, for reaching out and the inspiration. I hope I reciprocate with my blogcasts and, of course, the podcast. Once again, I am recording on Adobe Beta Podcast. Appreciate you guys giving me your feedback. The transcript will be located, as always, on the podcast blog post there on the website. Hey, I want to thank my good friends at bedfords.com. They have PhotoCon coming up, which is, of course, a great event. I have some good friends will be there presenting, and I trust you will be in the audience learning and getting inspired, and, of course, taking advantage of the marvelous deals. Now, Nikon has a boatload of really great rebates going on. Um, I guess they're called fall rebates, to be honest with you. I'm not sure. Anyway, to the point, the Moose discount is on top of those rebates. Yeah, you could really save some serious coin right now. So, besides getting stuff that they have in stock that others don't, and the great service and knowledge, you're going to get that great price. Head to bedfords.com, either in person, by phone, or internet. Make sure you tell them Moose sent you so you get the Moose discount. Get that gear you need and want at a price that's going to knock your socks off. And remember to tell them thanks for sponsoring the Moose Podcast. Well, let's dive right into this week's episode, Camera Basics. I have a list, a big list of things I want to go over that are basically inspired from a whole lot of questions this past week. I really would love to know what inspired so many camera basic questions. There was a number of events going around, a number of presentations and talks. I'm assuming that they're coming from that. So let me get right into the battery. Now, I'm going to talk about batteries in general, but for DSLR or mirrorless, it's really kind of the same. And I'm, of course, Nikon centric. But first thing I want to talk about is, be it for my Nikon bodies, my Pro Photo flashes, whatever. Um, no one's ever told me that different lithium batteries are still lithium batteries, and well, they like to be totally charged and totally run down in the very beginning. You kind of basically set the stage for their entire life with the first couple times you use it. So with that said, for example, the Profoto A10s, I charge that battery up when I get it, and with the A10s, I just turn on the modeling light, video light, and I let it go until the battery wears out. And then I charge it up. I do that 3 times. On the Z9, the Z8, I do the same thing. I shoot those batteries until they are exhausted. First 2 or 3 times. I don't, and then I start charging it. And then let's say I go out and that morning I do it air to air. And in the Z9, that's going to be anywhere to 6,000 images. The battery might be down to half. If I shot some video, maybe less. If I'm going to shoot that afternoon, I will go and charge that battery before I go shooting that afternoon. If the afternoon shooting is, going to be light, I'm not doing thousands of images. I'm just, I won't even charge it. On the Z8, it's trying to power the same kind of uh, infrastructure as a Z9, but with a smaller battery. And that battery, it does a great job, but it does tucker out much sooner. So I actually will carry extra batteries with me. And in that case, I'm using the little battery cases you get from um, Lenscoat. And what I do is if the battery is charged, the battery is turned so the contact, the little nipple on the end of it, is at the bottom. I can't see it. That way, when I look at the case, I know that battery is charged. If it's exhausted or when I've already used, that nipple contact is sticking up so I can see it, and I know that battery is needing charging. Now, the Z9 battery has a totally different charger than the Z8. So you can actually, quote unquote, refresh your batteries from the Z9, D6, D5. With that said, I only do it when it tells me to, quote unquote, refresh or actually calibrate. And that has nothing to do with the cells, has to do with electronics. Just keep that in mind. Now, one thing about the Z9 charger I'm going to tell you about, and I have no anything other than anecdotal evidence here. I have nothing other than that. But when I travel on the road and I'm staying in a hotel, which is often, I always charge that battery when it's plugged in directly to a wall socket. I don't ever plug into like the socket on a lamp or some of those other multi strips that are built into hotel rooms. I only plug that charger directly into the wall socket. Why is that? There is something about those devices, the lamp and those multi sockets, like on the TV. I don't know if it's the amps or whatever it is, but you plug them in there, and more likely the charger is going to tell you to calibrate. Like I said, I have no clue what it's about. It's happened to me more than once. It's happened to people I travel with. So always plug those in right directly into the wall socket. Avoid that problem. All right. Now, with that said, one thing that's plagued batteries since the very first day of rechargeable batteries going into cameras is static charge. It's hard to remember that those cameras are computers. They're ungrounded, unshielded computers, and it takes almost no static charge, almost none, to uh, stop the camera from function. If you have ever worked on electronics, you know that when you put them on a bench, you have to have a static plate. You have to some places you wear a wristband. You actually ground your body. It takes very little static charge to do a number on them. For me, it happens most of the time when I'm doing it air to air. I'm up there flying, the doors off, and what happens is the camera just stops. It just says, "Yep, it could be turned on. You could be shooting. You could be looking through the viewfinder. You could be chimping, and everything just stops. And you're like, "Oh no, the camera broke." Actually, that's not the case. All you got is a static charge. So what do you have to do? It's a real simple fix. First, turn the camera off. Second, take the camera battery out. Just simply take it out of the chamber. Next, wipe the end of the battery on a piece of cloth, your pants, a shirt. Then turn the camera back on with the battery not inserted yet. Hold down the shutter release. Make sure that any power that's in there is bled off. Then put the battery back in and you're up and going. And it happens. It's no big deal. It's just the nature of having, you know, these ungrounded computers we call cameras. Just keep on going. It's a real simple fix. Now, the cameras, you'll hear me talk about a fun meter. I'm actually talking about the battery meter. So in the Nikon, you go up into the setup menu and you go to battery. It'll tell you a couple things. It will tell you one, the percentage you charge. It will tell you also if you need to recalibrate that battery. It also will tell you how many shots have been taken on that charge. Now, the way that battery meter works, and this is what we're talking about when we say fun meter, when you put a brand new charged battery in the camera, just out of the charger into the camera, it's set at 0. And it'll keep going. Now, if you take that card out and you empty the contents of your card in the computer and put the card back in, the meter does not reset to 0. So the only time that meter for the number of frames fired on that charge gets set back to 0 is if you recharge that battery. And one little note, I use the GPS location on the Z9 a lot, and I actually use the logging option in the Z9 a lot. So that is, for example, I am at point A, and I'm about to go in a boat, and I'm going to go out and photograph pelagic birds, and then I'm going to come back to that point A again. So I have the same, departure and return location. I will turn on that mapping, logging as it's called, in the camera, and it will actually map all my route that I took in that boat out there on the sea. If you take the battery out because you have a static charge issue, that logging will stop. Turning the camera on and off won't turn on off that logging. Removing the battery will. So logging will only stop when you tell it to stop, unless you remove the battery. And if you are into logging, or you want to use that fun meter a lot to see just how much you've shot, remember you've got the My Menu feature, which if you don't know how to populate it, head to the website, look up settings. You'll see my settings. There'll be the information about the My Menu. It's a really great place for dealing with these things. It keeps you from pecking through all those menus to find them. It's just boom right there. So there's some basics about the battery. I want to talk about dust first. If you have a DSLR and you look through the viewfinder and you're seeing dust, it's not on the sensor. Okay, it's somewhere else, most likely somewhere in the prism in the mirror box. You're not seeing what the camera is seeing. You're not looking through that sensor. So anything you see in the viewfinder on a DSLR, yeah, it's not on the sensor. It's strictly in the prism. Now, reverse. If you are shooting mirrorless and you see dust, that's something either A, on the sensor, or more likely B, on the rear element of the lens or on a teleconverter. I got to tell you, it's bit me more than once, and I see something, I'm going, oh man, I thought it was clean. I look at the sensor and it's clean, and my brain just farts. I go back, I get frustrated, and I go, oh, it's the rear element. So get in the habit of when you clean your gear, make sure that the lens cap, which is plastic, gets cleaned, blown out. Plastic, again, like anything else, static charge. If you put that lens cap down on a bedspread, a towel or something, it's going to pick up that lint, or in the wintertime from your clothing or gloves, and it's going to transfer that quote unquote dust or lint from the lens cap to the rear element. And then boom, it's in your picture. So if you're shooting mirrorless and you see dust, yeah, you're going to see it in your photograph. Next, when you go to clean the sensor on a mirrorless camera, this is really important. You must remove the battery. If you have the battery in that camera, that gimbal that keeps that sensor steady while you're shooting, you can damage it. I've heard about it already from some who have left the battery in. They take that sensor swab and they push on that sensor. It's real sensitive. Take the battery out. Turn the camera on, depress your shutter release, bleed off any possible charge in the system before you go to wet clean a sensor. Now, this brings up how hard should you be pressing on that swab with that sensor swab? Hey, the sensor swabs come in a plastic wrapper. Before you even get it out, practice with that plastic wrapper. Put it down on a surface. You only want to press as hard as it takes to barely deflect that plastic wrap. That's as light as it doesn't take any pressure. You're not like scrubbing some dirty plate with leftover, cheese on it. God, I hope you're not. Uh, you're just getting rid of some sticky dust, which does happen. So lightly, okay, lightly when it comes to cleaning that. Now, if I'm about to do it air to air, and on a side note, when it comes to getting dust on a sensor, boy, the mirrorless, nothing like the DSLRs. DSLRs, from air to air shoot, there'd be enough dust on that sensor afterwards to plant potatoes. With the mirrorless, it's like almost nothing, which I really, really love because, man, moving dust in post gets old fast. With that said, when you clean the sensor, you got to realize you're in the mirror box. You've removed that lens and you can see the entire mirror box assembly. And I know there's no mirror in there, but it's still called the mirror box assembly. It's just, that's the name for it. Some traditions keep going, even though there's no mirror there. And you can see the black, and you can see some electronics, and you can see all sorts of stuff in there. Dust resides in that as well as on your sensor. And as best as you can blow that out, there more than likely is still some piece of dust somewhere in that mirror box assembly. I know that. For that reason, if I am going to go out shooting and I either am going to do it air to air or I'm going to do some landscape where I know I'm going to be closing down the aperture, or I know I'm going to be shooting video, which always requires that aperture being closed down. And with video, removing a speck of dust is the most painful, boring thing I know in photography. If any of those scenarios are coming up in my shooting, when I clean my camera gear and the thing, when I clean my sensor, my hands are going to be damp. So dry skin particles don't get in there. If I know that I'm worried about dust, I will not take my camera in a rolling bag and roll it out to the vehicle. I will pick it up because the simple process of rolling that camera bag out of the hotel room, down the hall, into the elevator, and across the lobby and across the parking lot, that one speck of dust that's in that mirror box is going to hit the sensor. It's just going to vibrate out. So keep that in mind. If you're flying to a job, that process of putting it in the overhead bin and takeoff and landing, it's going to move that piece of dust onto the sensor. If someone's just cleaned that sensor for you, like Nikon, and it's going to be sent back to you by FedEx or UPS, what do you think that truck, in that box, it's gonna get on the sensor. It's just the nature of the beast. Keep it in mind. All right, keep moving on. Using a camera strap. It's really old school, but there is a way to hang a camera from your shoulder and a way not to. And all it takes is just a simple little twist. I've got information on the website. You don't know what I'm talking about. But basically, it's real simple. When you have a camera on your shoulder and there's a lens in place, you do not want the lens sticking straight out or perpendicular from your body. You want it hanging straight down. And a simple turn of the camera strap, the way it goes onto your shoulder, will make all the difference in the world. You got to remember there's either 4 or just 5 little screws holding that lens mounting flange onto that camera body. That's it. Just those couple little screws and just a couple little threads on each screw. If you don't take care, what happened to my friend Bill long ago, and he actually warped his lens mounting ring on his camera body because he kept hanging the big lens off his body, and it slowly pulled that lens mounting ring off the body. And it's got to be perfectly parallel to the sensor for sharp images. So you want to make sure that lens is hanging straight down and it's parallel to your body, not perpendicular. How about that lens shade? I get a lot of questions about lens shades. Unless you are shooting in an environment where you've got light striking the front element, you technically don't need a lens shade. Now, if you do have that scenario, either some water reflecting, snow reflecting, ice reflecting, sun up into your lens, or the sun actually hitting that front element, then you need the shade for doing what it says. It's going to shade your front element from the light striking it because that could cause flare. Typically, the loss of contrast and color saturation. That's the most classic flare. Then you got those little green orbs that come in there. Now, me personally, I always have a shade. I have it uh, reversed so it's in use, not storage position. I mean, those photographers go around with it in storage position and shoot. Why do you even have a shade? I mean, you just look like a dork. I mean, come on. For me, that shade, two things. One, it just protects that front element from taking impact either from moisture or a branch or something like that. But two, and this is the silliness, but it's just the way I think about it. It just brings all the sex appeal out in that lens. And I need all the sex appeal I can get when I'm out shooting. How about the filter? All my lenses have filter and they typically get swapped out annually because they get scratched and they get marked. And with aviation, often get oil residue on them. And why do I swap them out? Because they get scratched and all that stuff. And now, if I didn't have the filter on there, what would be getting scratched and having issues? Yeah, the front element of the lens, and that's expensive to replace compared to a filter. Then there's always going to be people, I never use a filter because it degrades the image quality. Let me tell you, boy, the number of sales I have lost from photo buyers saying, oh, this quality, this image sucks, you use a filter. None. I mean, come on. That's just stuff you read in magazines, people who want to start a controversy because they have nothing else to say. I've got prints that are 28 foot by 23 foot, and they were shot with filters. So that's not what's causing image problems. Real inexpensive protection. I always get Nikon NC for Nikon coated, and they just do marvelous things. Camera mounting on a tripod and or a lens, whichever you're directly attaching to the head of the camera, be it the foot of the lens or the base of the camera. I've seen it once, I've seen it way too many times. People put their camera on a tripod and sooner or later it hits the ground. How do you prevent that? I've been doing it since it happened to me way back when an 800 and an f4 went flying off my tripod, hit the ground. Every time I mount a camera or lens onto a tripod, before I let go of that camera, before I let go of the tripod, I lift up on the lens and or camera to make sure it is connected to the tripod. That simple act takes seconds to do. Once you mount it, just push up on the camera or lens. If it's not mounted, it pops right off. If it's mounted, the tripod comes off the ground. That's it. It's that simple. It's all it takes. Last thing I'm going to go through on camera basics, one I've harped on forever, basic hand holding. Had 3 emails this week. Do I really do that? Every day. Every day. Whether I am taking pictures or not, the camera is in my hand. I will take my left palm, I point it to the heavens. I put the lens in my palm, so gravity is forcing that lens and camera into the palm of my hand. I bring my elbows in. I bring that camera back against my eye. I have the eye cup. If you're using a Z9, eye cup information's on the website. I put that eye cup tightly against my eye. I put my finger on the shutter release. It's resting there. I lightly depress it to activate the camera. I completely depress and roll to fire the camera. That's basic hand holding. I do it practice every day. I put the shutter speed to 1/20th a second and I shoot with a variety of lenses for at least 5 minutes every day. It is a basic. It is a necessary evil. It is what gives our camera stability and our images tack sharp resolution. Well, camera basics. Took a while to get through them, but there you have it, folks. Thanks ever so much for joining me this week, and remember to make every click your story.